Study Section 4. Adult Education Organizational Environment. Introduction. Meaning and theories of organization have been treated. Hence, in this session, the environment of adult education organizations will be discussed extensively. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to define an organizational environment, explain the types of organizational environment, examine factors affecting the adult educational organizational environment, analyze how an organizational environment factors be managed. What is an organizational environment? It is important you note that, according to Ogbojafor 2000, environment literally means the surroundings, external objects, influences, or circumstances under which someone or something exists. The environment of an organization is the aggregation of all conditions and events which surround and affect it. In fact, the environment of a firm consists of all groups and institutions that have an actual or potential influence on the organization's decision and ability to achieve its objectives. It is the sum total of physical and social forces and institutions that are relevant or potentially relevant to the organization's goal setting and goal attainment, and which are taken directly into consideration by members of the organization when making decisions and plans. Every organization cannot exist in the absence of an environment, a community or people. This environment, however, affects these organizations, and adult education organizations are not an exception. Porter 1980 sees the organizational environment as a set of forces and conditions outside the organization's boundaries that have the potential to affect the way the organization operates. For an adult educational administrator or manager, organizational environment are a set of forces and conditions that operate beyond an organization's boundaries. They affect its ability to acquire or utilize resources effectively. For an administrator or manager to be able to identify opportunities and threats caused by forces in the organizational environment, it is important to distinguish between the internal environment and the external environment or general environment. Types of organizational environment. The immediate task environment. As you will find out, these are internal forces identified as workers, suppliers, distributors, customers, and competitors who affect organizations' ability or capacity to meet target objectives of effective input and effective disposal of outputs. Because of their pressures and influence on managers and administrators on each day, adult education managers deal with these factors each day in the form of adult learners or participants, customers, facilitators. Adult education managers deal with these factors each day in the form of adult learners or participants, customers, facilitators, or resource fellows and other supportive staff workers, books and stationers, publishers, donor agencies, suppliers, media houses, distributors, parallel agencies who compete for scarce budgetary allocation, etc. These various factors affect the input, that is, the enrollment of adult learners, and organization of various programs, and effective coordination of staff, and the production of output, which are adult learners, for example, without funding from affiliate donor, non-governmental organizations, NGOs, administrators, or managers will find it difficult to meet organizational objectives. National environment. There are factors that generate from outside an organization, that is, the surrounding community, which affect the task or internal environment. These factors are economic forces, technological, socio-cultural, demographic, political, and legal and global forces. Administrators should constantly analyze these forces as they affect the long-term decisions of an organization. An examination of these forces would give a better knowledge of how they apply to adult education organizations. Factors affecting the adult educational organizational environment. Economic environment. The economic environment describes the economic situation of the country within which the organization operates. The effect of economic changes on the organization must be identified and addressed, since the absence will affect the future profit vulnerability. The suppliers, donors, publishers who are internal or tax environment forces are affected by the economic forces in the areas of interest rates, tax increases, inflation, unemployment, or economic recession. Good economy means good resource flow. Adult education programs will suffer therefore if suppliers do not have good economic situation to operate. Technological environment. Technology describes the combination of materials and processes that provide the capability to produce a product or service. The technological environment is the capability for using the wide variety of materials and processes to produce goods and services, and the capability to further innovate materials and processes. It has been observed that the 20th century has witnessed a dramatic and miraculous change in technology. The emergence of some technological devices such as thinking computers, miracle drugs, space communication, electronic money transfer have altered the frequency of operation of organization. Socio-cultural environment. Social structure is the arrangement of relationships between individuals and groups in a society. Administrators and managers must be responsive to social changes within the society. In adult education, if the society is not aware of the need for literacy, it will affect the program or the kind of cooperation that the organization will gain from the company. Demographic environment. Population changes of citizens characterized by ethnic origin, age, gender affect the planning of the administrator of adult education, as the number of any character of a population will affect the attention that the adult education program will be directed. If the population has more children and women, it sure will have a logistic problem to adult education planning of programs. Political and legal environment. The system of government, its shade of political and economic philosophy, the machinery of legislation, and the legal system and the system of control and regulation of the industrial enterprise make up the political environment. The political philosophy will determine the nature of regulation and control government will exercise on the organization. These are outcomes of changes in law and regulations, government policies, resulting from political and legal developments within society, and significantly affect managers and organization political processes, shape and society's laws. Law constrains the operations of organizations and managers, and this creates both opportunities and threats. In Nigeria, deregulations and privatization are just two examples of political and legal forces that can create challenges for adult educational organizations, especially now that Nigerian government are privatizing all government parastatals. The decision to give universities autonomy And the emphasizing of federal funding of universities will affect also the enrollment of learners into distance learning programs when fees go up as a result of reduced funding. Internal environment. These are outcomes of international relationships, changes in nations' economic, political and legal systems, and changes in technology. Adult education organizations will be affected by the international charters on education like we have with the Education for All initiative, which Nigeria is a signatory and contributor. Any policy change or new idea or paradigm will cause a change in the focus and plans of an adult education administrator planning any program. Managing organizational environment. In order to manage organizational environments, an important task for managers is to understand how forces in the task and general environment generate opportunities for and threats to their organizations. The way to do this, as advised by Jones, George and Hill 2000, are A. List the forces in the general environment that affect an organization the most. Analyze changes taking place that may result in opportunities or threats for the organization. B. Devise a plan indicating how your managers propose to take advantage of opportunities or counter threats that rise from environmental forces and what kinds of resources they will need to do so. 2 steps must be observed to measure importance of opportunities and threats to be analyzed well. 1. The level of complexity in the environment, and 2. The rate at which the environment is changing. This information will afford administrators and managers of adult education the opportunity to plan appropriately and choose the best schools and courses of action towards implementing programs of education for all, both in the formal and non-formal adult education. Administrators of adult education therefore have to recognize the complexity of the organizational environment, which is the function of the number and potential impact of the forces to which managers must respond to in both task and the general environment. A potential threat here becomes the force which is most likely to make a significant negative impact on the organizational progress or achievement of organizational goals. If adult education administrators recognize the importance of recognizing their organizational environment and the environmental changes, which is the degree that forces in the task and general environment changes and evolve over time, they can anticipate how the task environment might look in the future and decide on the actions to pursue if the organization is proper. Study section summary. Organizational environment is a set of forces, conditions, or factors outside the organizational boundaries that have the potential to affect the way organizations operate. In adult educational organizations, education is the task force which also affects the way principles and practices are formulated, and as well as the organizational goals. These environments are divided into internal and the external task environment. They are also called the real and general environment. For the internal task environment, the forces are suppliers, distributors, customers, and competitors. These terms are translated to mean differently in adult education practice. For the general or external environment, these forces are demographic, political, and legal forces, global forces, etc. These environmental forces can, however, be managed through 1. Listing the forces that affect the organization task most. 1. Listing the forces in the general environment that affect an organization most. 2. Devise a plan indicating how your managers propose to take advantage of opportunities or how to tackle threats to their organization's achievement. This is the end of study section 4. Thanks for listening.